Good morning. This is Tyler Dawn Rosenquist of theancientbridge.com, and for this week's Sabbath feast culture experiment, I wanted to talk to you about preparing for the Sabbath mentally as well as helping other people prepare for the Sabbath. Everything that you do today, one way or the other, good or positive, is going to affect not only your Sabbath, but the Sabbath of the people around you, the Sabbath of the people we come in contact with on social media and out in the world. Sabbath is our responsibility. Sabbath is God's gift to us. Sabbath is the day that it's not a day of taking off of work. That's not the purpose. The purpose of the Sabbath isn't that we don't work. The Sabbath is about celebrating the reign of God, God's dominion, and ourselves as his image bearers, and that was our original covenant vocation in the Bible. We as his image bearers, we have an obligation to mirror him to the rest of the world, and he reigns, and so on every seventh day, we specifically celebrate the fact that he reigns. So we are commanded to not work. We are commanded to focus on him. We are commanded to celebrate his majesty, promote his reputation, just, exalt him. Now, what a lot of people like to do is they like to live absolutely their normal lives until sun goes down. Now we're just going to switch it on like a magic light switch. And I don't know about you, but a year and a half ago when I started really focusing on how to keep the Sabbath, I figured out that doesn't work. Especially if people had been nasty, fighting, if I'd been nasty, if I'd been fighting, if there'd been conflict, for the preparation day, just in general. So, and there are some people who can switch it on and off, I guess, who can just suddenly be at peace on the Sabbath. I'm not among them, and I bet you aren't either. But more than that, even if you are the kind of person who can just switch it on like a light bulb, the people you interact with, maybe they aren't. All right? Now, we have a responsibility as a nation because we do everything together, and everything that happens to one of us happens to all of us, and everything, that we do affects everybody. So we need to, we are our brother's keeper. And when it comes to Sabbath keeping, we have an obligation to make sure that we are entering into that day with the right mindset, but more than that, that nobody is entering in that day with the wrong mindset because of us. So, this isn't the day to fight. This isn't the day to be divisive. Actually, really, it's never the day to be divisive. Not the way that we do it and the things that we do it over. Like the Pharisees who came against Yeshua on the Sabbath, were they coming against him for important things? Everybody thinks that their stuff is important. But when we look at Yeshua and what he was doing on the Sabbath, he was healing people. He was sitting in the synagogue. He was standing up and reading and teaching when invited. He was doing God's work on the Sabbath day. Now, when he got in fights, it was because people picked fights with him. We don't see him picking fights on the Sabbath. As a matter of fact, in general, he didn't pick fights. Unless you were doing evil on holy ground up on the Temple Mount, and then he got out his whip. Other than that, he wasn't really whipping people. Most of what he did was responding to attacks waged against him, and especially when that happened on Sabbath. But even when someone attacked him on the Sabbath, he answered them so brilliantly as to shut it down, and it's over. Now, we don't do that. None of us are as brilliant and clever for obvious reasons. But let's talk about things that we can do to help ourselves and others. One is, don't go looking for a fight on preparation day. And if you can find that you can hold yourself back, then stop looking for fights all the other days as well. Now, two, we all need to make sure that on Friday We are taking care of repenting with other people for the things that we have done wrong. You know, a lot of times we just do awful things to people and we go on our merry way as though we haven't affected their lives. You know, even when they forgive us, they may be dealing with a lot of pain, humiliation, shame, that kind of stuff, and they may deal with it for a long, long time. We don't have the right to just walk off and say, well, they need to be more forgiving. You know, forgiveness doesn't take away the agony when one friend or one believer hurts another when they do harm. We like to think that we can just walk off, but we are not right with God. And so, you know what? Here's something I encourage you to do today. If you can, if you have the ability and you know that you have hurt somebody, especially if you did it wrongfully, you know what? Go to that person. Don't make excuses for yourself. Go to them and apologize. Treat them with the dignity they deserve. Release them from a burden. You know, remove the shame they may feel because of your sin. Remove the anger that they might have because they're expected to forgive something that you haven't even shown you're repentant of. You know, release burdens. Go into the Sabbath with a clean slate. It's good for you. It's good for them. Most of all, it's our job as image bearers to be perfect reflections of God and not to just go walking around like, oh, well, it's in the past. You know, I'm going to say here right now, there is somebody years ago on social media, and she didn't mean any harm. As a matter of fact, she was trying to help me. I had said something wrong that I didn't understand, so she came to me in private messages. I was in a terrible way. Her Facebook name was Anna. Unfortunately, she didn't go by her real name. Well, she came to me. I was in a bad place, and I made some nasty accusations against her. And I blocked her. Well, when I finally felt horrible about it and I remembered her, went through my block list, there is not that name. And so because, one, I waited too long, and two, I was just mean, and three, because she wasn't using a real social media name and she either changed it or left social media, I can never apologize to her. You know what? That bothers me, and it's bothered me for years. So, you know, don't wait until you feel bad. It doesn't matter if you feel bad. If you've hurt somebody, do something about it. Don't wait. And you know what? You and they go into the Sabbath with a clean slate. Anyway, that's the Sabbath feast culture experiment for this week. And I love you, praying for you. And I pray that you have a wonderful Sabbath tomorrow, studying the scriptures together as a family. Shalom.